So one of the things that I know confuses a lot of the world right now, within the last few years, and it's been around since I was a child, but within the last few years, it's been an uprise where you have people like the Hebrew Israelites that was greatly motivated by, I know you know Kanye West and how he came out and felt, and they have been teaching that the Jews are really the blacks that's here in America that's from out of slavery. How do we determine if that's truth or false? And if it is false, what are they identifying with? Why would they identify themselves with that?
It's a loaded question. Profound claims demand profound proofs. We could all agree.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If someone claims they saw an alien last night, that's a profound claim.
Mm-hmm.
Say, what's the proof? And they show you a piece of toast because he made that toast. Well, that's not what.
Mm-hmm.
That's a profound claim to make. Before we go on, I should mention we're not judging anybody. Everybody is seeking in a very dark world Noah's Ark. There's a storm outside, and people, I would hope, their soul is crying out to be protected. And they want to find something. And Judaism has survived longer than any other religion while being forced to travel the world without a pope, So I get why someone would seek refuge, as the Bible says, "Tachas kanfei hashchina," underneath the wings of God's glory. So we're not judging anybody. They disagree with me, obviously, which is fine. I don't get upset or angry at them. And seeing them on the street, sometimes the Hebrew Israelites, they enjoy a good back and forth. It's coming without judgment. If you look around this room, if you want to pan around, before we do that, the Holocaust is the most recorded event in history. We never had war with video cameras before. We never had technology like we had then. Right? It was primitive, but there's never been a greater or a more recorded event. And the Nazis, they loved paperwork, right? They loved organizing and having information coalesced. And it always boggled my mind, not that people, some, a very small minority, have the disease of denying the Holocaust, but that's what you chose of all events that, you want to deny Washington was the first president. You have an easier time than denying. Why would you take something that's so demonstratively right in front of you? And Judaism is the most well-traced religion nationally. So I was pointing out in my office, I could take Judaism is a legal faith, among other things, meaning we have a type of Supreme Court. And in case you go to your local rabbi, if it's complex, he'll go to a big tilakit. So over the years, before the printing press and certainly before telephones, you would write a letter to a rabbi, and legal decisions were made that way. So I could right now in this office trace Judaism as this Judaism, meaning my nationality, straight back to Moses. I could show you a letter from a rabbi today to his teacher in Europe, to his teacher in Spain, to his teacher in Vienna, from his teacher. I could trace it all the way back to the Talmud. And Maimonides, of course, gives us a list in his introduction of tracing the Talmud person by person, student to master, father to son, mother to child, all the way back. I don't know any other religion makes that claim and could show that claim. I know that there are, it's almost like, you'll excuse the expression or the example, someone from a foreign country and I show them baseball or a basketball game. And they say a very sincere claim, but it's so hard to explain because they don't have, why can't they do X? No, it's not done that way. It's so bizarre, that claim. And it's to the point of ridiculousness, not that they're ridiculous, God forbid, but to claim that the nationality. Now, there is another type of especially in African-American churches, which I don't know if they're claiming what the Hebrew Israelites are claiming. Rather, they claim that the promise of the 400 years of slavery to Abraham and then being chosen in the beginning of Genesis, chapter 10-ish, that is the experience that the African Americans are going through, being here for 400 years and then going to be redeemed. Minister Farrakhan used to say that a lot in the 80s with Phil Donahue, who just died this week.
Rest in peace to Phil. Grew up watching him.
Well, that was a time that you could have a conversation. That was a time that two people could disagree and disagree without being disagreeable.
Absolutely.
And not attacking someone's humanity. I mean, Phil Donahue did not agree with Minister Farrakhan, but they were able to have a rational debate. That's how Farrakhan got introduced to the wider public, through Phil Donahue. But, and I didn't see it as a kid. As I was older, I was able to find clips. The point being is, the burden of proof is not on me, it's on them. It's not just, if Jews get upset by it, so what? Let's say someone's walking down the street and someone says, I'm the true Israelite. Now, most Jews don't care. Say what you want, it's a free country. There are Jews who do get offended. I want to explain to the listener, whatever your beliefs are, why a Jew will be offended. It's very easy in 2024, maybe not so much now, to claim I'm the Jew. Try doing that in Poland. We have the scars. So after all the scars and the killings, choosing between which child the Nazis are going to take. I mean, as I alluded to before, we could get into the Middle East if you want, but just this one point, after the founding of the State of Israel, people don't realize how many Jews lived in Libya and Afghanistan. Members of my synagogue from all over the Middle East. Libya had a tremendous Jewish pop. Tunisia, kicked out, destroyed, houses burnt, money stolen. Billy Joel, you know Billy Joel is the piano.
Yeah, of course I know Billy.
Joel Industries, his grandfather had a hardware store in Germany. One of the biggest hardware stores in within a 100-mile radius. They were millionaires. It's taken away from them. Now, he started over again, the family. Actually, his dad went back to Germany in the 50s. And his father came to America, Billy Joel's father, and was sent almost immediately to fight on the front lines against his German friends. Can you imagine how, right? So the hell that we've been through, the crucible that we've been through, not that we're the only ones, not that it was worse than anybody else, that's not what I'm saying. But to now say, it's like, I don't know if you have kids.
Of course.
Come help me clean up. And they don't come. So I'm sweeping the floor and I'm scrubbing and I'm thinking, the dishes, and then finally one of my kids shows up and dries one dish, and a little bit later I tell my wife, I cleaned up the house, and my daughter says, you mean we cleaned up the house, right? What? So if there's an offense, Jews have been through a lot. We don't take offense that easily. Again, you may think that the Black Hebrew Israelites are all the true Jews. I'm talking it just emotionally now. An example of this is Stuyvesant, Bed-Stuy. Peter Stuyvesant, if you read my book, was a rabid anti-Semite. A rabid anti-Semite. Today, there's a lot of movement to pull down statues. That's not really within our MO. To me, the greatest revenge against Peter Stuyvesant, and I'll tell you why he was he actually, when the Jews arrived in 1654, there were a couple of Jews in New York. It was then called New Amsterdam. But the first group of 20 or so Jews arrived. And they arrived because of the Spanish Inquisition. They got stuck here, and they had to come to New Amsterdam because England didn't allow Jews. The listeners may not know this. You could Google this. 400 years, the Church of England and the King did not allow a Jewish soul into the nation of England or any of its territories. So and that was rescinded that year. It just all worked out, thank God. So the only place we could go was the Dutch-based New Amsterdam. He wrote a letter to the stock market. That's how began the stock market. The Dutch East Company in Amsterdam, saying, I don't want Jews in this land. I don't want Jews in that. And there was a fight of letters. You could read the letters. They're available for anybody to read. And thank God, in Amsterdam, they wrote back that this new land will be free of prejudice against creed, religion, and it was because of that fight with the Jews. He put them in jail right when they arrived. It was horrible. Do you know that when the natives, they were afraid, the Dutch of New York, then New Amsterdam, that the natives are going to attack or the English are going to attack, and they were right. They only had it for 10 more years. So they wanted to build a wall, but the Jews were not allowed to be in the army. So they had a choice. You could either be in the army or pay for the wall. The Jews had no choice because they weren't allowed to be in the army. They had to pay for the wall. You know what wall that was? Wallstraat, Wall Street. It was called Wall Street because, so to us, our revenge, let's succeed on that street. Our revenge is not pulling down Peter Stuyvesant's statue. I want to see little Jewish boys on their Sabbath playing hide and go seek around his statue. That's my revenge. These insignificant gains of pulling things down, we think are silly. But in the case of Hebrew Israelites, as we alluded to several minutes ago, to become a convert used to be suicide. And to all of a sudden now, when the dishes are clean, say, we're the Jew. I don't know if the listeners know, the Spanish Inquisition continued into the Americas. It wasn't officially rescinded until the 1960s. There were Jews in Brazil, in Mexico City, south of Texas, who were killed, burnt at the stake, burnt alive for being Jews. Here, before the founding of this most amazing country in the history of the world, in my opinion, as imperfect as it is. And it is very imperfect. So if there's an offense and a sensitivity, and for the Hebrew Israelites watching, just be mindful of that. Even if you think that they're wrong and you're right, you're talking to people who may have suffered greatly.